Open session public meetings are subject to being videotaped. Your image and voice may be recorded. All right, let's start with the minutes.
Is it just the minutes that you sent us this week? That's all that's left?
Tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's January 30th, open and executive session.
Okay. Motion to approve?
So moved. The only thing I have to say is, after reading them, that you should probably, you being Mary, find some owner's construction protection insurance.
Yes.
Okay, anything?
No?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
FY18 budget requests, we have the wiring inspector, which is $133 more. Most of that coming from a request for $300 for a electrical code book.
Motion to approve?
Second. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the Cultural Council, which is requesting an increase of $250. They say that these funds are used to support many local organizations, including the Public Library, the Memorial PTO, Senior Citizens Agricultural Commission, and due to standard cost of living increases, many artists have raised their grant fund requests over the last several years, resulting in a reduction of community programs that we can support without this additional funding. So it would go from $1,250 to $1,500.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have the Historical Commission budget, which is level funded.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Second, it's $600. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oops. I guess that's out of ink.
Do you need a pen?
No, I was using I'm gonna use the official pen.
Oh, okay.
The Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatch budget. So,
The police chief wrote back that he thought that was as he expected.
so the end result of this budget is that it goes down by I think there's a third one in there.
From 157 to 150.
Yeah, it goes down, with the addition of Townsend, it goes down $8,000. Yeah, a smidge under 8. So we have a meeting Wednesday morning to approve it.
Do we need to approve it?
Yes.
Selectmen?
Need to authorize
Okay.
it,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's okay, we have the,
Aye.
hello. We have the Board of Selectmen report, town report. I read it, thought it was good.
Me too.
So, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. This is it, correct? Not
Yes,
this.
that
This is the
correct.
budget narrative. Okay, gotcha. Yep, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have the Highland Commons invoice after,
Well, I didn't have a chance to draft that today, but it is only public safety mitigation at this point with the square footage is approved between council for Henderson and the treasurer
Yeah?
after a lot of consultation with the building inspector. And
Yep.
if it's otherwise just drafting the letter, do you want to approve it with Tom's sign-off since Tom was involved in it? If you're available this week, Tom?
I am.
Because he's anxious to get that out the door.
okay, so it looks like,
I'd have to come in in the evening and sign it.
Okay.
But I'd have
I'll send it
do
to you so you can all see it, and then,
it looks like it's gonna be public safety. So is this correct then, the square footage? 298,000 square
That's
feet?
my understanding. They've gone back and forth.
Okay, so the total would be $413,033.28.
Okay?
Do I hear a
I
motion?
would move to approve the invoice in that amount to be accompanied by a suitable cover letter for my sign-off.
Second?
Any other discussion?
No?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did we end up with more footage or less? I never,
Slightly less, as I
okay.
remember, but only, nothing conceptual, just where the line in a couple of places was between Hudson and us. So, very minor.
Okay. Okay, we have a 7:15 appointment with Mr. Hoffman. You can come on up.
I think you saw some of this, but I printed it anyway just to take some trees down. And this includes, and Mary, I'm sorry I didn't make a copy. Oh, I did. Look at that.
there's one in the.
No, there's one here.
Thank you.
So, I'll translate what I've handed you in a second. So, we have a need for some admin support. Nadine is playing secretary, and it's just difficult for her, and it's difficult for me to accomplish as much as I'd like to accomplish. So, we had this brilliant idea that if we could get 8 hours per meeting based on 12 meetings is 96 hours times, as you can see in the arithmetic there, $25 an hour, which is pretty liberal, as a budget somehow, either through a warrant article, which seems to be inappropriate, or through another process, that would be greatly appreciated. We're, as you may or may not be hearing, making some progress, but without some support and some action support, we're really struggling. So, if the selectmen are inclined to support the idea, I'd be grateful to know how we should accomplish that. So page 1 is what I thought was the right thing to do based on what I gathered between Nadine and June. Page 2 is June's today cover email to me, or to all of us, and then some attachment samples, which I didn't process because until I
No.
get some guidance from you, it makes no sense.
That's fine. Yeah, I think, I think that what the suggestion is that this should become a department on the budget, and it should be submitted as a budget, and what the budget form here is an example.
Which page is that?
That would be this, yep.
The budget expense
Yeah.
detail.
So you would do one, and let's see, this one, unfortunately, this is not a good example because it doesn't have
Purchase and
part-time,
Well, there's another document, the next one, that maybe is correct.
No.
no.
You know what, we have a budget here
Yeah.
from,
I don't think anything has wages there, does it?
no, but I mean, it has the
There was that
form.
line on it.
Or Mary could email it to me. if you
Yeah,
want.
anyway, this particular budget has only expenses, supplies, and other expenses. Yeah.
Use that.
This one, which is one we're approving for another department, you can see up in the top set of blocks has a part-time wages line. So you would fill it out with the part-time wages at...
For the year?
Yes, for the year.
Okay.
Yep.
And
You could only start this
July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
no matter how we did it.
But where's the money coming from?
It has to be voted
It
at
would-
town
it would be
meeting.
So
voted-
would it be a warrant or be part of your budget?
No, it's
No,
part
it
of
would
the
be-
town
It
budget.
would be part of the town budget. We would be opening up a new department line, which would be the Economic Development Committee.
I see.
It would have a number, and I think June actually found a number that was
It's on
appropriate,
page
182.
182.
It's
Yeah.
on page 1 of the
Yeah,
top.
so it would have 182 here, and then you would fill in 2,400 for part-time wages. And if you anticipated any other expenses.
This is the town budget.
Mhm.
And it would be 182, which would be in between agriculture and public building.
So there would be an additional,
That's right,
Yes.
and that's how it would be voted. It would be voted as one of the
As
lines
one of
of the
several.
budget. Yeah, exactly.
all right. Fine, so process-wise, I'll get this form from Mary?
Yep,
Looks like
Mary
it's
can-
on its way.
she's getting it right
All
now.
right. And then, can I submit it to Mary for inclusion, or how would you prefer that I submit that?
Yeah, you could submit it to us, and then we're the appointing authority, so we would sign
Along with
all.
the planning board, John,
The planning board also has to
Yeah.
vote.
which meets tomorrow night. I don't know if this is on the agenda.
You need to
but-
have a job description.
Mhm.
And Mary outlined all that, didn't
Yeah,
she?
Mary sent you an email with all that in it.
What you needed, job description,
That was from last week, okay.
yeah.
All right.
And an advertisement and a classification suggestion.
And then this, and then the job description has to be put on the spreadsheet for employees.
Okay, so sort of step by step, if you will. There are really sort of two trains running here. One is to get this into the budget, and then two.
Which is accomplished with this.
Which is accomplished with that.
All right.
And then two, obviously, if you're going to hire a part-time employee, you need a job description, which you submit to us. We will classify it at a particular
Grade.
level. Now, what are we paying, what is the level? Because I think instead of using the 25, we ought to compare what
45.
we're doing with
Leanne?
Leanne, for instance, at least as a benchmark.
She is grade 5,
And
which
that-
starts at $16.37 and goes up to $20.90, $20.90.
But from a timing perspective, right now, the critical piece is this.
Yes.
June will
Okay.
balance that without there being a job description usually that goes with it, generally.
I'll talk to June. I mean, we need to get a job description quickly, but,
All right.
and certainly, nobody will vote on this. There'll be objections if we don't have a job description. And you
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think as quickly as possible, submit us
Okay.
a job description. If you could do it by next week, that would
Sure.
be great.
Sure. That'll be fine.
And then,
And we'll consider if there's any other I mean, this is the only thing that's causing us to sink at the moment. There's a $500 budget, I guess, already assigned to us that we may use for mailing,
I
et cetera.
have to say that I'm not really for this, simply because there are a lot of other committees out there, and the only ones that actually have any secretarial help is the ZBA and the planning board, because, well, and conservation could if they wanted to, because they have legal issues. Their minutes have to be done and done on time because they can be brought into a court of law for all three of those. The rest of the groups, I don't know how the rest of this committee feels, but the rest of the groups all take their own minutes and, you know, I mean, you're in a committee and you do the committee work. So I'm not quite clear why you
Well, it's
can't take your
a-
own minutes.
Well, we are, but it's a production issue.
What does that mean, a production issue?
So our goal is to produce a result, and the less admin we do and the more doing we do is going to bring a faster and more productive result.
Well, but that's true for
Everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, no question. But, you know, in the meantime, we're still faced with those issues. If you're not inclined to support it, you know, I understand.
I mean, my feeling is that you've got a lot of other committees that all produce things and all take their own minutes. I guess I just don't understand why,
Well,
After you
I'm-
let us know, told us what this person would be doing in that amount of time, so that then we get an idea.
So attending the meeting is a portion of it.
Mhm.
Post-meeting, processing the minutes, and the action items are acting on a very long list of things we've created. And I spent
For instance, just giving a couple of examples so we know.
researching other organizations that have like-minded goals. I don't know how much you've been monitoring what we've done. So we had the Town of Stowe's planner meet us. I suggested to the board, for example, that each of us take a different county in the Commonwealth and try to learn from other communities within a county so we wouldn't replicate each other's counties. So we assigned ourselves 5 counties. And I just happened to have chosen Stowe because I thought it's somewhat similar to us in some ways. We have the
counties
town-
or towns?
Well, I assigned us counties
Okay.
each, so we wouldn't overlap. So one person had county X, the next one had Y. Because if 2 of us had one county, we might end up overlapping. So I had the Town of Stowe's planner in for a long discussion. We swapped ideas. Getting to that point took quite a bit of time. We had the developer for Highland Commons, Judd Hayes, speak to us. There's a lot of ideas that came from that, where we had the mall manager for Solomon Pond meet us. Now we're going to try to have a summit between the 2 of them. And this creates an enormous list of thoughts and ideas to pursue, and getting some help from an action standpoint would help. So
They would be
we're
doing correspondence, they would actually be meeting with people?
No, not meeting. I don't envision meeting, but doing the back-end research, trying to perhaps create some, I wouldn't go so far as to say relationships, but some contacts. You know, if I was prepared for these kind of questions, I would have brought the file, which I didn't, and
Well, and you can come in
explain it a bit
next
more.
week, too. But I think people will ask these questions, because there are lots of boards with lots of production, and they don't, in fact, have this kind of administrative support. They,
Understand.
so I don't think that Judy is going to be the only one who has these questions.
Nope.
FinCom will certainly have these questions when we submit the budget. So I think if you want to go forward, you basically do those things, and if you could also, and it's sort of, I think it's consistent and supportive of doing the job description, to give us a little, prepared narrative of what somebody would do with 8 hours a month.
Okay,
Okay?
I can do that.
And then next week, if you wanted to make an appointment, if you had the budget and you had the job description, then we'd actually have something.
So all of this, the budget part of this, I can submit next week, or you prefer it before
Well,
next
you
week?
need a job description
Well, all
for the
the
budget.
pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, if you could come in with a job description, the budget doesn't take a hugely long time to do. A job description, the budget, and then some kind of narrative about how this person is going to be using 8 hours a month.
I can do
Then
that.
we'll have a job description we can look at, a budget we can look at and act
I'll
on,
do that.
and some background for why you're asking for
I'll
it.
do that.
Okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
On a different note, how do you want to fill the vacancy? How do you prefer that to be accomplished? Do you want us to attempt to find someone and get your blessing, or do you want your board and the planning board to bring it to us?
You can do it either way.
Here's a volunteer application form that I've actually already posted it on our website.
Yeah, saw that.
But if you know that there's somebody you think might be interested in it,
Ask.
ask them to fill out a volunteer form, ask them.
Okay. So it's okay if we bring a proposed candidate to you?
Absolutely. We usually ask the board to whom we're, appointing the person for their input anyway, so.
Okay.
Is there a deadline to,
There's no deadline,
No,
so
it's
it'd
just
be
a
rolling
volunteer.
just until
Okay.
it's filled. But then for this, historically, the applications, volunteer applications had gone to the planning board itself.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you also jointly appointed, but They had been
Yeah,
going
so-
back to them.
So you also need to go and talk to planning board about this tomorrow night, because it's a joint committee.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm unable to attend. I'll have to see if I can get somebody else to attend.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
7:30, conservation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris.
Hi there.
We were asking your permission to submit a couple of articles in the warrant. One of them is a pared-down wetlands bylaw that probably could be said represents about 25% of what we offered last year, so there's substantial change in it. It's basically a 35-foot no-touch buffer zone around. You have all resource areas now, they call them resource areas, wetlands, vernal pools, that you can't touch, but you can do anything right up to them. This would add a 35-foot no disturb zone all around wetlands. It's a modest proposal. Some towns have up 50, even 70 in a couple of towns.
So how does this differ from last year's?
Last year's was, there was a buffer zone, there was vernal pools, we were gonna protect wet areas. The only wet areas that the state law protects have to be connected to a stream that runs into the ocean eventually.
And you were changing the definition of stream?
Yeah, we were changing that,
was it?
right, so, but there are plenty of wetland areas on all the fields and vernal pools that we were gonna protect last year, so that was one thing.
And it ran for about, I don't know, 20 pages, and the intention this time is to go with existing definitions in the state wetlands law. And then the third paragraph here sort of says it's our intention to stay with the state jurisdiction, authority, regulations, et cetera, et cetera. So this kind of it just expands something that's defined already. So we don't have to talk about it here, is expanded by 35 feet. Because last year, it looked like we were trying to adopt a whole new regime, I guess.
So this simply adds one more area to the wetlands law called the resource area, which is the 35-foot buffer. And that's much less than before. I should have written up and been very specific about it, but there were not only different areas we were protecting, but also, yeah, and then stiffen the rules on the existing wetlands, what you had to do. So we've done none of that this year. We just merely wanted to put this buffer area around the existing wetland resource areas and use the same standards that the state law requires on all the other resource areas. This, Tom, is, Lee corrected the English on that a little bit better. There was a couple.
No, that's
things.
right. I mean, at this point, I'm just
Yeah.
reading it for understanding. Okay.
And to be honest with you, on that third paragraph, I assume, we did not run
This is
this
the
by
general
town council.
principles paragraph that
It
you're
is the
talking?
intention
Yeah.
of?
Or is the intention of? Which one?
This one right
Okay.
here. Yeah, that's where we say, we're not gonna write out a whole bylaw and you have to file separate notices of intents and all this other stuff. But we're gonna go right by the state bylaw and merely add this into it. I spoke with the executive director of the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and he indicated that that has been done before and is perfectly doable, so that's my
So
shot at it.
if I could just
Three
briefly
looks a little shaky.
summarize what I think you're doing here is, in addition to the existing resource areas that are defined in the state law,
Right.
you are defining a 35-foot buffer as an additional resource area.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And so it will be subject to exactly the same regulations as
Right.
if it were one of the existing categories of state.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So, number 3. The commission may require placing permanent markers to indicate the boundary of the UBSRA.
That's,
I don't know how
Come
you
on,
that's
let's
defined.
say it.
You just spell it out with, like, I know what you mean.
Upland buffer zone resource area.
All right, the purpose of that is that builder comes along and he obeys the law, doesn't get into the wetlands area. Homeowner comes along and we see this all the time, yard waste, litter boxes, Christmas trees, all thrown into the wetlands. So we're saying we want
Yeah,
this to stop, and we want a demarcation. If we think we don't, not necessarily, there's a word may in there, you'll notice. But on a
I
couple
would
of,
say that most homeowners don't know where the demarcation is.
right, so that's
That's
one
why they're
reason right there.
Well, I mean, so how are they gonna mark it if they don't know where it is?
Well, that's
who's
what the
gonna
rocks
tell
are for. Oh,
I mean,
well,
who's gonna tell them, this is your 35-foot?
when the builder submits the plans, on the plans, they have to now indicate all wetlands, the 100-foot buffer and everything else. Well, they'll have to indicate and stake out on the lot the 35-foot buffer. And while that's staked out,
Then they can mark it.
right.
Yeah.
And they have to, before they start working, actually put the,
No, but I'm saying, like, what if a homeowner right now,
yeah.
I mean, they don't have any plans from a builder.
Well, they do. But right now, and I think what you're talking about is there were plans,
Yeah.
and the plans are on file with the town. And at this point, they mark the resource areas themselves. And what you're saying is
Right.
people are, they have a low swampy area at the back of the yard, and I'll never think of Phil in quite the same way after you explain what you found there, but,
Right.
What if they have a garden in it?
Well, this isn't retroactive, as you would know. I mean, everything's grandfathered in. If this passes, when it becomes law, anything that was there before does not have to meet the 35-foot buffer. And then as far as the wetland delineation, it's a good question. Making a bylaw and enforcing it can be two different things.
But, I mean, the state law already says if it's wetland, one, it has to be
Yeah.
demarked when the property is developed.
Well, my
If there is
question
work
wasn't when
within
it
a
was
certain area.
developed, it was like, somebody who's lived in town for 50 years, doesn't have any plans showing the wetlands because they didn't exist.
No, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
No, that's true. That's true.
We've had to enforce the wetlands law when it was rather blatant and when you could see it, when it's flagrant and people see it driving by and they report it and we go and look and sure enough, they're pushing stuff into the wetlands and we write them a letter and they
Right.
restore it and we've made them, at least in one instance, put boulders along there and they were very cooperative and understood that.
Okay.
So that's one.
Okay.
The other one is, like I said a couple of weeks ago when I was in here, we are out of funds at this point for land acquisition. And I would also point out that up until the time that we're sitting here right now, this town, taxpayers paid only $11,000 for all of the open space that we had. And that's because of the negotiations of Mr. Andrews and Skip Duggan and a few others getting our $3 million from Solomon Pond and then the extra money from Highland Commons. And then we've been very aggressive at getting reimbursements from the state. And we've been very creative in trying to purchase just the development rights in some instances or selling off a lot or two. We didn't sell it, but when we worked with the owner, we agreed they could sell off a lot or two to bring the price down. So I think we've stretched out.
I don't have an article here, though.
Mary, did I I'm sorry.
You didn't email me one, but it's the exact same one as last year. You just want to change the dollar amount, is that
Yeah,
right? Then I
yeah.
can, let me print it for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
It wasn't emailed in, but I made it a placeholder.
Okay, thank you.
So what amount are you looking for?
2 million. And
I like how you went after a little hesitation. I don't think anyone will notice on the town floor.
I like the way he spelled it out here with words. in the,
Oh, yeah,
instead of numbers, because numbers stick out.
right. No, well, let's discuss this a little bit. We were asking for two, and the reason is that we've basically gotten about all the good deals we can get in this town. We've been very lucky, and the average acre price, which I don't have at the tip of my tongue, but is really low compared to any other town. And as I said, the total ever spent by taxpayers has only been $11,000. Other towns would have spent $12 million to get what we bought. So we're asking for that. But there's one other.
Well, there's just one other thing.
Okay.
I think we got a little hung up last time on how this 2 million was gonna be used. Are you gonna have, right, you remember this discussion?
I do.
Are you gonna have a blank $2 million
Thank you.
check and you just go and buy it? Or are you gonna have, the ability to spend 2 million, but you come to town meeting and have it voted? Or,
We would bow to your judgment on that. We think we've done quite well, and one of the benefits of, as you know, it would be available. We wouldn't be borrowing it until we got something. Let's say a farm came up that we were looking at and we needed some money. Then we would use it. So we would have the power to borrow that money if we needed it. It has been helpful in a couple of incidents where people were happy to deal with us because we could go in and we could either match an offer or just go in and buy it and not have to wait for town meeting cycles and everything else. And people, I've really been scolded a couple times because we weren't fast enough in doing what we should have done, so people like that. But we run them by you, and in the event that you think, I still think that you appoint us, we're your agents. We would definitely let you know anything we're doing, and if you thought that, well, let's run this by the town or something, you can always have the right to do that.
I would, I think, first of all, I am a great supporter of the idea of having money on the table for this, particularly in 61A situations. We've been able over the years to acquire land very economically because you had money there and you could say to a developer, you know what? We could buy this project right out from underneath you, but we don't think that that's an economical thing to do. So work with us, and consequently, in many cases, we've been able to acquire backlands, if you will, and at exceptional prices.
Yeah.
Under those circumstances. So, if it were up to me, I would say I think it is a good idea to have it spent there and available to be spent. But I also heard the town meeting floor last year, and I wasn't getting the sense that that people, when they were spending borrowed and appropriated monies, were entirely comfortable with that approach. I know you and I had spoken about the fact that this year, if we took an approach of asking for an amount that was equal to what we spent on the Reese property to preserve that field, which and the idea of one of the approaches might be to say to reimburse the conservation fund for that, and then have some money, because that's not quite as wide open as just giving you the money. Another approach is, you have a list of acquisitions here. You could make an article that says that you could spend it for any of these, and for any other things that that you came back to town meeting for approval for. That's another way, because I think you need to address the concerns that we heard on the town meeting floor you know, by narrowing this in some way.
Yeah.
Either by characterizing it as a reimbursement, a sort of a restoration for something that was spent, or to say for this, you know, list unless otherwise voted, you know, for items on this list unless otherwise voted by town meeting, something along those lines.
I don't know what, well, by the way, we had a special meeting tonight, we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't take any votes on anything else, and that's scribbling.
Yeah, yeah.
We did a little wordsmithing, but we didn't take any votes on something, but, I mean, I was thinking about that, Tom, and I guess my feeling is we propose, you dispose. I mean, look at it, and if you, whatever the Board of Selectmen come up with, we'll live with it.
Well, I mean, I think we have to work on it.
I think that's.
Not so fast, Mr. Victor. Nice attempt.
They caught on.
Nice attempt at a handoff, but, I mean, I think, you know, one approach might be to have a relatively simple article, and I believe that under an article that looked like last year's, one could make a motion that limited it, you know, to these, you know, to these items. What I could suggest is this, because you need to submit something tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. May I suggest as an approach that you would submit the article you submitted last year
Yeah.
and make the adjustments in the motion. But that in the interim, you could check with town council to be sure that approach, we could check with town council to be sure that approach was okay, and that we would make, you know, allow such amendments to the motion as town council recommended. How's that sound?
Well, I got nothing on that. Your lawyer in this. I'm looking at this motion, and this is an override motion. So that's
Yeah.
another question, is do you want to do it within the levy, or do you want to make it an
Well,
override?
because of it borrowing, don't you have to?
Nope.
No.
If we have levy capacity, you can borrow within the levy.
Okay.
That is. Do we know what the levy is?
I think we had like 400,000 or something. Well, I mean, that's just another,
Yeah.
that would be a capital planning committee to me, or finance, well, I guess in lieu of one, it would be the finance committee. Should be looking at that and deciding, along with the treasurer.
I do think that the town meeting last year did, if they don't understand, then I think they have to see something tangible. Like you're either reimbursing yourself for something you purchased, or
These are the things that you think
or
are
you're
coming
going
up,
to
you're gonna buy.
purchase such and such. I think that probably works better in order to pass it.
Okay. What I'll have to do is describe it as X acres of farmland and this and that, because you really, unless I went around and got permission from everybody that we're negotiating with to do it, you know, and as you know, one of the reasons to have executive sessions, you don't talk about these things in the
Right.
open until you sign.
And I would also put in the reimbursement for the Reese property.
Yeah,
That's 400 and some
that
thousand.
is tangible too.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we were just lucky that you had the money when it came up.
that's right, yeah.
You can talk about that kayak launching that you're gonna put off it.
Okay. The other thing is, that's closely related to this, I mean, we were talking about a little bit, again, we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't vote on this or anything, but talking about the notion of, if this had to be reduced to a point where it didn't take an override vote, and I don't know what that figure would be, we had this other thing where the commission voted, perhaps without thoroughly analyzing it, to allow the so-called zip line project down there if the split rental went into the land fund. However, It's between the town and them incentives, not between the Conservation Commission incentives. So really, it would go, I think, to the general fund. I don't know if you people could decide that could go into ours, our land fund, or it would take a town meeting vote to do that.
My feeling is it takes some kind of town meeting vote.
Yeah.
The town meeting vote, I believe, could take the form of agreeing to a contract, the payment term of which said that a certain amount of that or all of that would be paid to the town, to the conservation fund. But that would still be a town meeting vote. That's the way that the mitigation payments were approved as going into the conservation fund. Alternatively, it would be simply to take those monies in and to appropriate them probably as part of your budget into a land acquisition fund. But I think those are the two ways that immediately come to mind. And I will say that Joel Bard is away for 2 weeks. I did speak to him just the day before he left because he was leaving the Thursday of
School vacation week.
Right. He has the materials and he gets back at the end of next week, and then Tim and I were going to get together to talk with him about that contract, and we will be talking about some of these issues when we do it.
Okay.
But we unfortunately, when we got it, it was like we got it on a Monday night, and he was leaving on a Thursday, and I took to him on a Wednesday. So.
Yeah, I had some questions. I read it, and I'm glad you're going to look at it in more detail. I figured you would. Well, that's good. Great.
No, I had a lot of questions about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it's possible it could be voted as part of a contract, a mitigation contract, or it would go through the normal appropriation.
I don't see any money coming out of it until after next town meeting anyway, so.
I thought, coming back to this, I thought that in order to borrow, that this was required, because the lenders would want to know that, if next year or the following year you had burned out of your levy limit, that you still weren't limited. But maybe I'm wrong about that, Judy.
I don't know.
We could ask.
I went through this last year, and I had to look up all my 2.5 notes to
Yeah,
see
we go through this.
when you
every-
can, because we only do it once a year.
Exactly. It's nice it's new every time.
Well, so
Yeah.
we could put both of those
Yeah.
articles in at
And we'll
this
take,
point.
I mean, we can look at this, and if for some reason it's not required, we can think about, for the reasons you indicated, we could think about dropping it out.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
It's actually 3 articles, right? Because you want a separate one to reimburse for the Reese property or not? Is it its own article?
No, I think that you could make that
Part of the
motion under 34.
Okay. Well, that's just last year's number, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever,
Whatever.
but this text,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
okay?
thank you. Anything else?
See, I mean,
can-
it's,
The train stuff.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I got an email from
I'm just gonna get a sip of water, I'll be listening.
Harold Naughton's office, but, I mean, the realty group that's selling it is basically saying, unless the town owned it before, it doesn't have first right of refusal. And I've tried to find out first right of refusal, but it's very convoluted.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I just left it there.
Well, as I was writing my last email to you, as you can see, I thought about it a little bit more as I'm going, and I don't know, I didn't think of that criteria of someone owning land on the other side, whether that gives them the right of first refusal or not, but you know what happened to Peace by You, and what happened to Rue's Garage, and we could reverse that if you wanted to make sure we never.
I can set my guard posts up on top of the train embankment.
Right. Okay, that's,
Okay.
just leave it, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there any We need to talk about a special town meeting for Sluzniak, Sluzniak, I don't know how to say the name.
Seslick?
Says like,
Oh, says like,
I was like, yeah, right. Yeah.
Titular license.
I don't know.
Yes.
If you need, you all set?
no, yeah, we're all set. We've got to sign something Wednesday, the next Monday they can sign. We've changed the parking spot by about 100 feet off of Allen Road for going into this land we're buying, and so it takes a reword, so that's all. Okay, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for coming in.
7:45. 1870 Town Hall, come on down.
This is Bob Barker.
Yeah, really.
No, it's, what's his,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now you have a
Can't
very
remember his
full
name.
agenda, and basically, we were just trying to get the clerk of the works consultant posting out.
okay?
So Dave Westerling was very nice enough to send me some samples of things, and then I kind of put it together into a thing, and then I talked to Mary, and then, so this is what we have. And I just am here tonight to see if we can get this going for tomorrow, so that we can then get some people to come in and we can get a good
I guess
review.
my question is, I thought that the completion date was August 31st, not December.
It was just it was vague until the contract was signed, until 6 months. And so I learned today that it was, December, or whatever it is. What is it? December 31st, completion date. But we
That's what's
expect
in
it to
the
be done
contract.
earlier than that, 6 months, but I think they're trying to give them a little room. I don't know. I wasn't involved in that, but
So it says December in
I haven't
the
read
bid
the
contracts?
contract. Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a 6 month as far as I was.
Right. And it may also be because, of course, that means interior work and all of that stuff. So,
The handles of doors and stuff.
yeah, so it might well be, because I think the idea was to have this person, look at, key construction, installation aspects, and so on.
Yeah.
So it may well be that once those things are done and one is to interior paint work and stuff like that,
Right.
you would no longer need the clerk of the works, but, and I think you do say a certain number of hours per week, depending upon the amount of the construction activity taking place.
Yes, and according to our architect, that may be heavier on the first part.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then we may not need so much.
Mhm.
And we've tried all along the way, and in every way, as the construction goes through, to kind of make sure we don't spend any more than we
Yeah.
have to.
No, I think that's,
So at the 7,500 at $40 an hour is 187 hours for clerk of the works.
Yeah,
I talked to Evie earlier.
okay.
So
Good,
I
'cause
think
I'm
you
not good at
were,
numbers.
so you were figuring it was about, 10 hours a week, it's about 18 weeks, which
Right.
would be the majority, I would think, of the construction.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
be done
once
by
the
then.
framing is up and everything, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
Okay, I
Yep.
don't have an issue with this.
No, neither do I. It seems like a reasonable description.
Looks good.
okay.
Yeah.
So procurement officer, are you gonna put this on the central register? Where would this go?
Well, it's between 10 and 50,000.
Yeah.
I guess there's no harm in doing it, just to spread the word, but yeah,
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay.
Where else would you post this if you didn't put it on central register? To get somebody?
In the newspaper, Telegram and Gazette.
That would take care of
Just
local
A really
place.
abbreviated one.
Okay.
Did you see how, listing out these different, they're not up yet, but like links to the different
Mhm.
documents?
Yeah, and in fact, we updated today the link to the town hall elevator project because we didn't have the update for the,
So where, if you want her to get this out, who's gonna give a contract location?
I will
and
get this up to Garth. I'll get them online.
No, but I mean, it's all X's now.
Yep, I will get a URL from Garth once he puts it up online. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, because
The
I'm
contract isn't
saying,
online yet.
okay, so Garth is gonna put the contract up
And
and
then
gonna
he will
put
have
up
a
the
URL.
construction bids.
Yep, the project
Okay.
drawings, the specifications, and the addenda.
I just thought we didn't have them.
No, we
No,
haven't.
we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You
My
couldn't-
husband made
we had
chocolate
the
raspberry
contract.
cookies, cupcakes today, if you'd like some for your boys.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
so Mary can get on, use her procurement list.
Yes, I'm procuring.
Procurement
Here we
list.
go. And a deadline of March 15th.
Is that
like
still
2
good?
weeks. I don't know how much lead time the central register really needs.
I guess,
You've done it.
well, you just post it and then it'll tell you, so,
Yeah, it will tell me the publication date. I don't know if I need to let me go look, I'll look at it, and I might just adjust this out according to how many days I might need to
Right,
adjust
I
this,
think that's fine.
That's good.
but not by much.
okay, anything else?
Good. Simple,
Okay,
simple.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All done.
Chocolate cupcakes.
Okay.
All right.
I'm waiting. I'll have a good cup of coffee.
Alrighty, let's see.
By next week, okay?
What? Get it done?
Vocabulary words, Ubsra and Sedgwick, okay?
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a
thank you.
test.
All right, I'm gonna
That'll be a test.
Where was the board?
Don't listen to them. They're cruel.
Okay.
Okay, once again, we're back to the Council on Aging, well, van drivers.
Okay.
Although
And
it
this is just
says
an
van
appointment.
drivers.
Oh, is there more stuff, or is this?
No, it's appointing.
Oh, yes, okay.
George Pendergast and Bruce Smith and
Dennis Sherman.
Dennis Sherman as Council on Aging drivers. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
Second,
Any discussion?
is this, did we decide the date, the retroactive
The
date?
beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oops, see, the property.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do I hear a motion to close the,
Just what, before we close it, I had talked about putting something for the painting and refurbishment of the flagpole either
Yes.
into our budget or into a special article. Do people
Uh-huh.
have any thoughts about that?
I have no thoughts.
What did we talk about the cost? You have any idea?
Probably somewhere in the vicinity of $5,000.
That was what Keith was saying
Yeah.
before.
Not
You can
more
put
than
it in
that.
the, well, it's almost too late to have a special article.
That's why I put it on the table. I mean, I don't mind putting it into the
FinCom rather
budget.
have 5,000 in a warrant article for that, or put it in our maintenance budget, which has already gone through.
Yeah, but we could ask for an adjustment
Well,
to it.
is there room in the maintenance budget
That, it would.
for like this year or for the following year?
FY17.
Yeah. They probably get more annoyed with all the small articles, so maybe they're putting it in the budget
Okay.
or putting it in our budget
Um,
somehow.
May I then go the next time to talk to them about that? And if they would prefer it as an article, can the record show that we accepted one? If they,
When's the
I
next
don't-
meeting?
Wednesday at 7:30.
Can you
Would it
make
go
that
into many
meeting?
buildings?
yes, I could.
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, it has been,
Well,
You
we
could pull the article if you don't intend to use
Right.
it.
Yeah, so put an article in for $5,000
and we'll
for
pull it if they
the
prefer to put it in our budget.
repair and maintenance.
Or even reserve
Yeah.
fund transfer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think one could make the argument that
Yeah.
it's that urgent, but it is getting to the point where, you look at it and it will,
It makes you sad.
yeah, it really,
It's wrecking our flags.
so I think,
Okay,
okay?
Okay.
all right.
Move to close
No,
the
no,
annual
but
town meeting
let's
warrant?
look at number 7 first. Annual town meeting warrant issues. Bottom line capital warrant issues.
Have you been following this?
No. Bottom line?
So there's 5 school committee budget request items, 10, 10, 10, 7,500, and 5,000, so it's a total of 42,500. Instead of having separate articles for those 5 requests, as the school department, I advised them to submit, because that's how it's traditionally been done. The FinCom's response back was, or at least the chairman's response back was, I would oppose that if it doesn't show up on the warrant as one bucket of 42,500. For the delineate, you can list in there in words what the reasons are, but he does not want it to be 5 separate articles. He wants it to be one, to give them the flexibility to spend within that bottom line in a capital article. Barry and June have some different but similar concerns about, June needs things to be numbered, so she's okay if it's gonna be a bottom line bucket like that budget to spend against an article. She just wants to make sure there's numbering of it. She also suggested a grid. So you'd put it in a grid and you'd say Articles 1 through 5 with a tally at the bottom of 42,500, but then move them as Articles 1 through 5 if you're looking to make something speed along faster, because they don't seem to be
Yeah, but that's not
controversial.
quite what,
It's not what they want.
No.
It is not what
they're
they want.
talking two different things.
That is correct. Or June suggested that you could put the numbers in as estimated numbers, but not that way, it wouldn't hold anybody to the numbers, it would still give flexibility to disclose to the public what the numbers might possibly be, 7,500 for windows.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of having it as one article, and then, people in the presentation can say, this is what it's covering.
Well, so Article 1 is $10,000 to repair, replace, maintain, test, and monitor the fire cistern tank. Article 2 is $10,000 for the rehab or repair to the walk-in cooler freezer. And then 3 is the rehab or repair to the dishwasher. And 4 is $7,500 to acquire shelving and storage units, and then $5,000 engineering for the gym HVAC units. Huh. They might actually want to be able to get to them. Well, look, there's a finance committee member.
I'm not opposed to doing them as one article, even if somebody was very much opposed or to one of those particular expenditures, you could still make a motion under that article for the other 4 for $35,000. So and it does seem to me that each of those are, I mean, it's obviously, it's a fair amount of money, but they are all sort of miscellaneous repairs. It's not like, one is adding a new, one item's adding a new facility and the other one is, is repairs. I mean, they all are sort of general repairs and upkeep, so I like the idea of having it as one.
Well,
Couldn't we still put them as separate articles on the warrant, and then someone just make a motion to approve them all?
You could, but then, yes, absolutely, you could move all of them together. However, then if it turned out that you had $1,000 extra with one of them and another one cost you $1,500 more, you couldn't, manage the money
Right.
across items. That would be the difference. And FinCom, I heard, liked that idea. The accountant said that the idea is fine with her, but it could also be accomplished the way you did it, but that would not accomplish
Okay.
the
gotcha.
flexibility across items. Yeah.
I think if we combine the articles, I would just ask that Barry give an explanation of some kind.
Well, the school department will give an explanation as to what it's for.
No, I mean,
About
if you
the
have an
combining.
objection to one of these being grouped together, you'd have to make a motion to pull it out.
But you wouldn't know it, you just
Oh,
have
that's
one
true.
lump sum.
Never mind,
No, here, hang on.
yeah,
If the school department explained it, that it's for these
Okay.
things, okay?
Right.
And the estimated costs are such, such, and such. If somebody really was against walk-in freezers, you know,
right,
they could make a motion for, instead of 42,000, you know, whatever, you know,
Right.
35,000, and for the remaining, you know, 4 articles.
to be
They could.
passed, right. Well, that was my question, whether you could do that
You
still.
can do that.
And I think that most of the people at town meeting don't know that they can do that. So that was what I was saying, is if Barry could give just a brief explanation.
Sure.
Well, no.
No?
I mean, the only issue I have with that is that if a voter stands up there and says they don't think the dishwasher should be done, and they take 7,500 out, then the school can still spend money on it.
The school could always spend money if they have money in their budget.
Well, I'm just saying that the will of the voter, and if everyone voted to take it out for the dishwasher, would then be bypassed because the rest of it is just a lump sum for, it's picky, but.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, on the other
But-
hand, as I say, it's
I don't mind having
$42,000
separate
for quite a
articles,
number of
but-
minor items that, to me, really don't seem like they're all that controversial. So, and it does give the budgetary flexibility. So I would be in favor of one motion, but others are not, then I'll have to stay late and do 5 motions instead of 1.
That's good.
Can I ask David what is behind wanting to combine them?
It was to make town meeting a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to call it speedy, but to move things along.
Expeditious.
Expeditious. If somebody wants to bring up an item, certainly they can, and it can always be deleted, but it couldn't be added. We thought of it that way, that you can take things out of a warrant, but you can't put things in unless you
Right.
have another meeting. So that was the thought behind it, and the idea of the accounting for it, saving the accountant, setting up all these different books, and
Yeah.
then tracking all of the dollars cost money. And if we do it this way, it's a little bit easier to track, but we can still track it.
There's only one special article
We can
fund to
still
cover it
track
all.
it. And the idea that these are repairs rather than capital items. It's really not capital per se. And so we're kind of trying to separate those from the operating budget or put them into the operating budget and take those capital items that really demand thoughtful discussion at town meeting floor. We should be doing that probably more than talking about these smaller items, which are repairs.
Okay.
Okay, so, I don't think we have to make a decision on this tonight, do we?
FinCom lumped a couple on their own. They didn't do all of them like this. They wanted the school department, and there was a couple of other, there's a
Yes.
couple of, a hot top, the crack filling machine, and the street sweeper, the used street sweeper was
The
one.
used street sweeper, which was, good, we thought was a good idea, save
Street
some money.
sweeper.
And it was explained to us by the highway department fairly well. So some of those are separated out so that the town citizens can vote on them. And then some of them, we classified them as maintenance or repairs.
Yep.
And we just bundled them to
Yep.
sort of make it more expeditious at
that's
town
nice.
meeting, rather than grind on for another night or whatever.
Yeah, no,
it
I
takes. So
agree. I think
It was
It's-
public buildings. Public buildings got lumped together, cleaning the air ducts and some carpet
Some
replacement for
carpets
$32,000.
in this building, and the air ducts cleaning. Again, could be, he separated into 2 phases, upstairs and downstairs. So it was easy to do that, and we figured if all that was in one package, and they had them here and they could do both, fine. So, that would save some money. rather than come back a second time or something like that. So a little bit more flexibility for the
Those
department
are really
heads.
the only two.
And a little less, micro time used
Yeah,
up
and
at
again,
town
it's
meeting
more,
floor.
replacing carpets is more of a maintenance thing than a capital item.
Jim's
So-
feedback on that was, if you put those together for 32,000, then they better be spending for both items within that, so
Yes.
not.
And we would expect next year, especially if we have a capital planning committee, for that committee, or if we don't, our committee would question them. How are those projects going that you asked for capital money last year?
Right. And obviously, they can't take money out of those funds for anything other than those two things.
Right.
Right.
So,
So, and the accounting, the accountant would expect accounting for those things, both the costs and the materials, so that labor and materials for those things. So
Right.
everything would be itemized for review.
No one gave article language for that, so that was part of the back and forth that just happened too, because we've never done this before. So the language will list all the different things that go into this bottom line.
Well, who's gonna do the language?
Right, I guess.
Because
I'm
you
doing
guys
it
are
now.
recommending it, but Keith isn't gonna do it. So who's gonna write this up?
Probably the capital planning committee.
We don't
We
have
don't
one.
have
Oh, we're
one.
going to have one though.
yes.
But,
So you
that would be the
you are
typical-
recommending an article.
Maybe we should wait till next year, when we have a capital planning committee.
Just saying that because you're not here next year.
I'll be out in the audience saying.
Yeah, really.
I like this
Mr.
separated out.
Moderator.
I hope you'll be on a cruise. Okay. I mean, I personally think to accept an article that is an article for the full amount to be expended upon the list of topics is a perfectly good form for each of those.
So,
So the motion would be, see if the town will raise appropriate, blah, 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 the amount of, the total amount to fund
These
the
items.
list of things. And I think that makes it clear to everybody what we're voting on. It's right there. If somebody has an exception to something,
yeah,
they can amend, the motion on the floor to exclude that if they really feel that's the case, so, I mean, it's all out there.
Would
And it gets
the
into one vote.
article include the cost for those items?
Well, it can't, right? So that's the whole
No.
point, is
No.
that it doesn't give any
So-
The
flexibility.
presentation,
Except for presenting it has to have that list.
Except for June suggested that you could say each item estimated.
right.
an amount.
That's what I
That-
think, that's what I
She
was
thinks that
wondering.
does
But-
both, because that then answers the voter's question as to how do I take out the dishwasher, but then it's
That
still
would be,
estimated.
it would be good to have a number like an estimate
Really
in
long
there.
article.
yeah. The
Because
thing,
actually, some of
again,
these things have been
Have you
invoiced,
read the
not invoiced,
verbosity on
but
these
they have
descriptions?
things in hand.
The what?
In some
Yeah.
cases, they're using a square footage cost and things like that, so estimated is a good word.
I think the thing is that and that's it, whether it's estimated or, or a hard
So you're
limit.
gonna use this.
June's suggestion of, doing
All
a
these
sort of
articles.
one
That's a
motion
lot of work.
with a matrix showing that, 10,000 goes to this,
Yeah.
10,000. That accomplishes reducing it to one motion, but it doesn't accomplish, some degree of flexibility if one estimate is slightly over, one is slightly under. That's
Yeah.
what it does.
Yeah.
So the recommendation of FinCom was what? To have it be one motion on the sort of matrix basis? Or,
It's just the school stuff and
Those
To
two
bundle
are-
building.
To bundle them.
to bundle them and have it be this amount for these projects
which I don't pass.
without giving a hard and fast
Without
assignment of a
giving-
dollar amount to each of them.
It was only for two
I
buckets,
just think this
though.
is gonna be a
It was only
crazy
two buckets.
motion.
Right,
It was only two things, it wasn't everything.
right.
No, it was just those two groupings.
Well,
Right.
I'm against the school one. There's just way too much. You're gonna have a motion that says, for the purpose of repairing, replacing, maintaining, testing, monitoring the fire cistern tank and associated pump shed at Berlin Memorial School, and to rehabilitation or repair to the walk-in cooler freezer, including but not limited to air sealing of unit, repairs of various components, improvements to drain line and refrigeration controls. And you're gonna have the purpose of rehabilitation or repair to the dishwasher included but not limited to replacement of water pressure booster, installation of filter, additional replacement components. And then you're gonna say, 7,500 for the purpose of acquiring shelving and storage units, and
Does it
then
make it
5,000.
No, we're not saying that. What we're saying is 42,000 for
Yeah, but-
this list of projects.
Yes, but it's a huge list of projects.
Yeah.
It's four?
It's 5 projects,
Five.
and it's a lot of wording, because they're trying to cover everything in the world on it.
But we have to say those words in one motion or in 5 motions.
Yes, but I think it's a lot more confusing to people to see a big, long paragraph with a list of things that, some of them, like shelving and storage, aren't related to repairing the dishwasher, the walk-in cooler freezer, the fire cistern tank, and design engineering services. Yeah, just my opinion.
Well, generally, I would probably be against it. But I'm thinking to myself, if we gave it a shot with like 1 or 2 articles, 1 or 2 groupings, and see how it goes.
I say leave it to the capital planning committee to come up. I mean, there's tons of different formats out there. If you look at Northborough, the award-winning annual report people, they have a whole format on how they do their stuff. I don't, well,
Might be
Anyway.
more discussion actually with combining them.
you can put a motion on the table.
They're really not capital.
No, they're repair,
They're really repair,
and it
so
should be in the budget.
they should be in the budget. And that's the other thing you could do, is just put them in their budget.
We used to take things out of their budget and make them warrant articles, so we know that the money got spent on those
I
particular.
realize that. I
articles.
realize that. The best, so this is kind of a neutral, best scenario kind of a thing, where we have some accounting for those items, and we can ask next year, well, what's the story on the rugs and the air cleaning ducts? Are they complete? And so there's some oversight, if you want to call it that, but
You could make an article that says for repair and maintenance at Burl Memorial School, and then they could read the list of things, but
yep. And.
then-
Yeah, I mean,
then nobody can take stuff, well,
yes, you could. I mean,
Still good.
but it does
You
not.
wouldn't know how
gi-
much money.
It would not give the reader advance warning, which is the purpose of getting a town report 2 weeks before, exactly what that money, unless you had a description below the article that explained,
Yeah.
which a lot of towns put descriptions in so that you understand the article better.
And in some towns, the capital planning committee has for each one of these, they have a list and little narrative. Here's what the money is going for and so forth, because in
Yeah.
a larger town, you'd spend weeks doing repairs, at town meeting. That's not a good way to spend citizens' time. It makes it arduous for people to sit through those. So we're trying to get a balance here. Not that, however it's up to you, or you want to do. I mean, or if you have other questions, but I think tonight's the night, so.
Right.
We're already late.
well, this was submitted before 8, so we're just,
No, I mean, we're late closing the.
Well, this has been a discussion for a couple of years now at Finance Committee.
And just trying to move things along.
But I wanted to make sure, when I was reading all the emails, that things could be done properly so June could keep track of them.
Mhm.
And she doesn't have a problem
no.
with this,
Good.
the way we,
No, I mean, this is a special article, especially, and
right.
she will see that the bill attends to one of these things. Well,
I don't think.
I think
it's-
that the issue that we have here is we're supposed to accept things from our sister boards here. The school department has given us 5 articles, and they're a sister board.
At my suggestion though, only because I wanted them to make sure that they got the requests
Okay.
in.
And were they going to do it without,
There would be a
Being-
business manager who doesn't know how to do it at all, so I just said, here's what they looked like in the past, just to make sure you got your requests in, do this. And that's why you got what you have there.
right?
You know, you could split the difference, you could do the schools individually, but on the buildings, you could combine them and then see how it goes, so that would be one way of doing it.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Just try a smaller one, less complex.
Yeah, the buildings are really maintenance items, cleaning
Right.
the air ducts and replacing the carpet, and there may be one other thing there, but that one probably should definitely be bundled. The moderator can also bundle at town meeting, especially if they're consecutive.
No, well, here's the thing, and this is what I'm trying to understand. Did FinCom want 42,000 to be spent amongst these, or were they just concerned to have one motion?
Oh,
You see?
yeah, we were thinking one motion, one on.
But you would be okay if each of these items was limited to the figure that was listed?
Yeah.
Yes?
Or estimated. I mean,
No, if you vote, again, if you vote a figure, that's it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm trying to understand is, did FinCom simply want this to be in one motion, in which case we could put it in a matrix, for crying out loud. You can have, $10,000 and you could put the description into it and have it be one motion. But then you're stuck with $10,000 for the fire cistern and so on, and if that costs $12,000, and if the walk-in, freezer turns out to be a cheap fix, and you have, that only costs $3,000, you can't use the extra
Well, that's the
to
way
make
it's
up for
always
the
been.
system. No, I'm just asking
Yeah.
what FinCom was after. Were you after transferability among these items, or simply having
I
one
don't think
motion?
originally we were
Actually wanted
after.
both.
Okay, you wanted both.
We wanted both. We
Last
wanted-
year, I don't think we mentioned the transferability when we
Yeah.
were talking
Right.
about it.
This year, when they came before us, we were saying, it would be good to have, they would appreciate having that, because in some cases, they do run over by a few $100s, and they have this money in this other repair thing, and they can't use it. So we would really, the idea was to have both.
Okay. Now, in terms of the way this would look, in a way that I don't think is terribly confusing to people if we were going to do that, you could say, to see if the town will raise and appropriate, et cetera, $42,500 for the following maintenance and repair projects, at the school. And then you could list each of them in a matrix, and then put an estimated cost, not a, so then it would have a matrix. It would have these 5 things in it, estimated cost. And then that would be $42,500 for the whole shebang. It would allow transferability. It would give people a sense of, what each of these was going to cost, and have it be right in front of people, so if somebody really objected to one element of it, it was obvious that that element was in there. What do you think of that?
I think that this should be decided by a group that includes the accountant, the FinCom, capital planning, and come up with a format instead of kind of willy-nilly ad hoc.
But anything is willy-nilly. If we do this, it's willy-nilly, because it's what Mary told somebody who'd never done this to do before. So it's all willy-nilly, whichever way you do it.
Well, I'm saying to just keep it the way it is. with
That's just
the,
willy-nilly and multiple willy-nilly, you know, I mean, what, you know.
well, put a motion on the floor.
Well, I move to accept an article that appropriates etc. $42,500 amongst these repair projects and lists each repair project and the estimated cost.
You can second it and we can discuss it.
Right.
And we don't have to discuss it too much more. We just vote on it, because if you two want to do it this way, that's fine, you know?
I
We'll just-
don't mind trying a grouped article. I just think that one is probably not the right one to do.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe just do the building this year, see how that goes.
What building?
The
Public buildings.
Mary had the
public
one with the
buildings.
two rugs and air duct cleaning.
Yeah.
yeah, I would go for
32,000.
that one. Can I amend the motion?
No, I'll withdraw my motion. Go ahead and make a motion.
I would do the same with the building.
No, on this one, so you want to, I suppose your motion would be to have them as 5 separate articles. Is that your motion?
For the school?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay.
Now, would you like me to make a motion for the buildings?
Yeah, that's in.
Yeah,
I don't have that in front of me.
that's 32,000.
Yep.
Okay. You want me to do that, and you can
Go
second
ahead.
it? I would make a motion to accept an article of $32,000. You know, in normal form, raise appropriate, all that, for the purpose of cleaning ducts and carpet replacement in, it's in this building, correct?
It is
Yes,
town.
and I mean, it's,
In the municipal office building.
And I will second that.
okay, is there any other discussion?
No?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Let's give it a shot, see how it works. And then maybe next year,
Next year.
we can pass it on to the capital planning committee.
Well, that brings up our next one. The Capital Planning Committee. Does the board wish to accept FinCom's changes and put it on the annual town meeting? Does the board want to hold a public forum on the proposal before annual town meeting?
I can only think of one thing at a time.
You're so linear.
I am.
So red is, are these color coded? Who's green, who's red?
Well, I asked Dave that. That's his rainbow version of
It's a
the.
rainbow
Yeah.
version.
I was in favor of the rainbow version. I didn't see anything that was a problem.
Okay.
No, I didn't either.
There were comments from, citizens,
Yep.
from the accountant, from the treasurer, from FinCom, and I couldn't identify, at the end, I couldn't identify who said what, but I included them all in different iterations as I went. It started in October at the hearing, and then we enlisted some citizens to make comments, and then the FinCom had a couple
Yep.
of iterations of it, so what you see is the final one.
Okay.
Yep.
So do I hear a motion to,
I would move to put this, an article adopting this bylaw on the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go.
Do we want to hold a public forum on this proposal before annual town meeting?
Do you think we need to?
Well, we discussed that earlier, we met over in the Tohoto school, and on the way home, we talked about having some sort of public information
Yeah, I think it's probably a
scenario.
good
I think it
idea.
would be good because it involves the way we govern ourselves, so it would be good to have something, either a hearing or a an informational meeting?
I think it'd be an informational meeting. I mean, we could do it also as, particularly inviting officers, department heads and so on, but to have it, have
And
it be a
people who
meeting, I
might be
think that's fine.
interested.
Do we want to have it outside of a selectmen's meeting?
I wouldn't anticipate it'd be hugely long. I would suggest that maybe if we did it at, like 8 o'clock or something at a regular selectmen's night.
Okay.
And, we just try to schedule things so we get most stuff out of the way, by 8. I wouldn't anticipate this being more than about half an hour, 45 minutes, but you never know.
April 3rd? And the next day is department head meeting, so it could be discussed
Yeah,
at the
Okay.
department head meeting.
okay, that sounds okay to me.
April 3rd at 8 PM.
Yep.
Okay?
And we were thinking of putting notices up on the Facebook page, Berlin Facebook page, and Berlin Neighbors. Just try to get the word out. And
Mhm.
we could, if there was going to be this 8 o'clock meeting, we would put that in that little
Yep.
blurb.
That sounds fine.
And here's where you can get a copy of it, and just to kind of disseminate it a little bit.
No, I think that's good, and it may save us some time. It's always very difficult to explain these things from ground zero, particularly to, there may be some few people who are very interested in it, and to try to get into that level of detail on annual town meeting floor is
Counting the
always
No, we wouldn't wanna do that.
difficult.
We would- So that people comment and they already know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hang out at the transfer
And-
station or
and-
something, whatever it takes.
Okay.
Drum up some volunteers, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And what is the final piece on this?
Are you looking for your agenda?
Yes,
EMS
is that it?
department bylaw.
No, this is
Dan,
mine.
Well, mine's hidden in here somewhere.
What?
What are you looking for?
No, are you looking for this?
What's
Is
this?
it in here?
Yeah, no one has that time.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Fire and
Yeah.
EMS department
No, just
bylaw?
don't worry about it. I'll send this, well, I sent that huge, what was the bucket list of everything that was going into the warrant last
Okay.
week. But there's even more to that, so,
There is, huh?
oh, yeah. I think 2 nights, maybe 3.
Really?
I do think so.
What
I
else?
think that ended up being nothing, right? The fire EMS bylaw ended up being correct from what I saw Barry wrote.
Oh, yeah, right, actually, true, but they, fire submitted a different bylaw today, it's not the same thing. It's, yeah, that's not an issue anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Says Barry, anyhow.
FY17 selectmen part-time wages, this is because we're not gonna have enough money at the end of the year.
I'm projecting that may be the case, although I could just stop working. And then you guys can handle it. Either way.
So we were
I'm
talking
good
about
either
giving
way.
you a heads up.
Okay.
How much are we going?
I don't know, because it is driven by chaos.
I think after town meeting, you would have a better
True.
clearer idea of how much you would be short.
So don't bother communicating that to FinCom, although FinCom is,
You could communicate that.
No, I
to them.
think
Communicate
when,
it to them.
when we have an idea, how much do we
Yeah.
have in,
I
we
don't-
really don't know at this point, right?
No,
No.
I know.
Except we know we're likely to
Well-
be short.
Except for you can tell me, don't do it anymore, which I'm fine with also.
Don't work anymore?
Right.
That's my job, not yours.
We'll catch a flick together. All right, so after town meeting.
I think after
I'll
town
diary that
meeting,
for some
things
more
would become a little bit more,
information. Okay.
Clear.
yeah.
Okay.
River Run Park lease.
I explained to you that I'd given that to Joel, and when he gets back, Timothy and I are going to meet with him and discuss that.
Okay. Shared employee overtime cost.
Oh, that was the,
Yeah,
This is the special municipal employee.
yeah.
no need to,
What, the way I read that was that there isn't a problem.
Right.
In this case, with paying him overtime. There is a latent problem with the fact that he's holding 2 contracts with the town. But we can solve that very quickly because we're a town of less than 3,500 and the selectmen would have to approve that.
We've done before for Denny and others.
Right.
Should we just maybe get a big list of everyone? Because there's others that this applies to, two, or not, or just take one.
We just have to review and approve, and again, I think in this case where he exercises obviously no executive function, anything like that on the plows, he's really just,
It's sporadic.
does it when he can and when it's needed, that, the idea of conflict is, really ridiculous even, but,
Yeah.
but we have to go through the process of looking at those two positions and saying, yeah, okay, there's no real possibility of conflict here, so.
And you can opt out of a shift if you wanted to, I guess, on the plowing. So he's not like
We
an
can always
assigned
opt out of the
shift.
shift,
It's not an
yes,
assigned
yep,
shift.
yep.
Should we close the town meeting?
Well, I have a
So moved.
question
Wait a
before you.
minute, okay.
So there was a citizen's petition?
Yes, and it's in, well, it's in.
And is that included in the,
It's
Yes,
in my
that was-
we
bundle
don't have to
wrap.
accept that
No, it's in.
especially?
I sent him confirmation back that we have it, just pending Eloise's certification of the signatures. But
Okay.
there's 19 of them, and I think I can count.
Okay,
that we
I
have
didn't know how
the record
it
of
worked.
it
Yeah.
already.
Okay,
So if their signatures are right, that's,
So it's 3 citizens
It's on.
petitions.
okay?
Donkeys.
Slade and this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
okay.
Do I hear a motion to close?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Do we need executive session? No.
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.